Hi, I'm Mike Reynolds, a senior reporter covering the media industry with the S&P Global Market Intelligence Tech, Media, and Telecom News Team. Welcome to MediaTalk, a podcast hosted by S&P Global, wherein the news and research staff explore issues in the ever-evolving media landscape. Today, we're going to talk hoops. The 25-26 NBA season is underway, and for the first time in over 20 years, there is a different lineup of national rights holders. Here to discuss the changes are a trio of S&P Global Kagan research analysts. Justin Nielson, principal analyst. He specializes in all things broadcast and many other things as well. Scott Robson, who tracks U.S. TV networks and sports, and Mike Johnson, who's on the U.S. Sports Watch. All three are in the virtual MediaTalk locker room to discuss the new national landscape, regional sports networks, the local station business, and the WNBA. Before we get to this, let's get our NBA affiliations and expectations sorted out. Justin, you're a Phoenix Suns guy, right?
Yes, a longtime Suns fan.
Are they going to be okay?
They'll be all right. I've been watching some of the China games. I think this team will be exciting.
Mike, MJ, I know we've got the famous moniker, but you're not a Bulls fan.
No, not a Bulls fan. Thanks for having me on the podcast, Mike. So I'm from Western New York, and I've always felt like I was in no man's land for NBA teams, but I grew up a Cavaliers fan, and we try to make it out to a few games every year. So I'm hoping for another big season this year and a better outcome than in the playoffs here.
Scott, you and I share basketball views, and it's orange and blue tainted.
Yeah, go Knicks, go. I think this year the Knicks have as good a chance as any. If you look at the Vegas odds, they're fourth best to win the whole thing. Hopefully, I think if they can stay healthy, they might be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to go New York, go too. And to me, this represents the best chance to correct the sentence. The last time the Knicks won the NBA championship was in the 72-73 season. So let's see what happens. Anyway, on to the business side. When it came to the NBA regular season, Wednesday night doubles on ESPN, sometimes on Friday. Then you get into Saturday night prime time and Sunday afternoon games on ABC. For 35 years, you could turn to TNT on Thursday nights for a doubleheader, then plenty of postseason action. That's not the case anymore. Warner Brothers Discovery could not win a renewal and is out of the NBA game business. We're embarking on a new NBA national rights lineup. Disney ESPN is still there with the package that includes the finals. NBC Sports is back in the national coverage game for the first time since 2002, and Amazon's Prime Video is taking to the court for the first time. Schedule is a little more complex than it usually is. I just wanted to ask you, Justin, what does this mean? We've got a lot more broadcast and streaming than in the past.
Yeah, more games on broadcast and streaming. It's just becoming more complicated as a sports fan to see which games are on which network or which streaming service. We'll outline it a bit, but it does set the stage in terms of the schedule, making sure that your team is on whatever stream or network.
But Scott, it seems like this may be the course for the national sports package these days, that it's broadcasting on one end to get that massive reach and then streaming to reach the younger audiences.
Yeah, so it seems like with the national rights deals, and this is across all sports, there are basically three main types of delivery systems for games to reach fans. So you've got the national broadcast networks, which probably have the widest reach of the bunch. Then the major streaming services, which can provide some international reach in some cases, and that youth market, like you mentioned. And then the platform with the most limited reach has become basic cable, which is reaching about 65 million homes in the US. So the leagues are aware of this. And I think when you look at the decision of the NBA to go with Amazon and NBC over TNT, that is further highlighted. The NFL deal is potentially being renegotiated as early as next year. There's an opt-out clause in 2029, but the league is looking to get things done early there potentially. And that could mean more streamers will enter the fold. The NFL already has deals out there for exclusive games on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Peacock. So the number of games on those systems, they could rise. But I think overall, the broadcasters will retain their Sunday packages.
Okay. Again, in particular, when we talk about the NBA over the last 20, 25, 30 years, it's been a cable league. And Mike, now this is 180-degree opposite.
Yeah, Mike, absolutely. So yeah, we're used to seeing like NBA on TNT throughout the season, but not anymore with the switch to NBC, Peacock, and the inclusion of Amazon this season. We're still slated for around 80 regular season games across the ABC and ESPN platforms, but the addition of NBC and Peacock is going to be a game changer. They're going to be airing around 100 regular season games on 3 nights, Sunday night basketball starting in February, They'll have NBA on Peacock on Mondays starting late October, and then also NBA Coast to Coast on Tuesdays. They'll have 3 key nights there. And then Amazon is also stepping into the mix here with nearly 70 games this season, highlighted by 5 consecutive Friday night double headers for the Emirates NBA Cup starting at the end of October, and it culminates on Black Friday in late November.
As you guys have just mentioned, it's a pretty different landscape than what we've been used to. Scott, can you give us a couple more particulars about the Disney ESPN deal?
Sure. Yeah. So Disney is the main media rights partner for the NBA in terms of total spend. So they purchased an A package from the league. So Disney is set to pay the NBA roughly $2.6 billion per year to broadcast around 80 games on ESPN and ABC. This also includes coverage of the NBA Finals and digital rights for the ESPN Unlimited service. More importantly, ESPN has also obtained the Inside the NBA show from Warner Brothers Discovery, and that will run pregame, halftime, postgame analysis, and it's really a fan favorite out there with Shaq and Charles Barkley really shining on the show.
Sure. I know, Mike, that you love Inside the NBA. So quick shout out if you want. We'll let you do it.
Oh, yeah. I love Inside the NBA. I can't wait for the ESPN broadcast to see how it goes. Interested to see how Charles Barkley interacts with the team this year, with it being on ESPN and some of his previous comments, but definitely looking forward to it.
Okay. All right, Justin, NBC had the sport in its heyday, if you will, during the Jordan era. They've been out of the NBA national basketball coverage game since 2002. What are your thoughts about the new pack that they have?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of chills when you hear that round ball rock theme at the beginning of the NBA on NBC. I'm looking forward to it. NBC Universal paid $2.5 billion annually to get season-long games on Monday and Tuesday nights, and then Sunday night games after the NFL season, and also the NBA All-Star Weekend will still have a different format. Monday night games will also be streamed on Peacock. They've got a great group of Hall of Famers with Reggie Miller, Grant Hill, Mike Tirico, and then also the addition of his heiress Michael Jordan will be contributing to some of the NBC coverage as well.
Yeah, MJ. Again, you mentioned some of the things with Prime Video, but they have an international component that I was really unaware about.
Yeah, Amazon, they've already made a name for themselves with the NFL Thursday night football coverage. And now they're investing just under $2 billion annually to broadcast NBA on Thursday, Fridays, and Saturday nights throughout the season. So they brought in a talented lineup of broadcasters with announcers Kevin Harlan, Ian Eagle. They'll have a good stellar group of game analysts that includes Brent Barry, Dwayne Wade, and others. But on the international front, Amazon is playing a pretty big role in expanding the NBA's reach. They're set to broadcast 8 Saturday afternoon games that will air in prime time across Europe this season. Okay. And this is part of a broader strategy to penetrate European markets for the NBA as they look to establish the NBA Europe League. And notably, these games are going to feature international stars like Wemby, which should draw even more attention throughout the season. And then additionally, the league is scheduled for its January 2026 global games in Berlin and London. And those are going to be produced and distributed by Prime Video as well. Amazon's definitely, with their exclusive availability in over 200 countries, I think a little below 250 countries, that was a significant factor in securing a deal with the NBA.
The NBA, in my view, Scott, if you were a sponsor going throughout the season, you could hit a lot of different seasons, Halloween, Christmas, Valentine's Day. Then you get into the spring and maybe your summer planning. The new league players are doing pretty well with the advertisers, I think.
Yeah, so it's no secret that advertisers find sports content appealing. Obviously, the NBA spanning across those holidays you mentioned is good for business. So a report came out earlier this month that NBC and Peacock are almost entirely sold out of ad inventory for the upcoming season. There are around 170 sponsors, and 20% of those are new to NBC Universal. They've got DraftKings as a betting partner. Kia is sponsoring the Tuesday night games. McDonald's is a key sponsor for Sunday nights. So a lot of interest in the NBA from advertisers. And while it hasn't been publicly reported yet, I'd imagine Amazon and Disney are right there having similar sellout rates. I think a lot of companies are eager to get in on the ground floor of this new deal.
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, first of 11 years, so you want to be there. All right, Mike, you've mentioned Prime Video has established itself with Thursday Night Football. The audience has continued to grow. your sense for what NBA will do? I'm thinking it's going to do okay, but obviously it's not NFL football, the most popular sport here in the States.
Yeah, I think through the first 4 games of this NFL season, Amazon's Thursday Night Football, they're averaging almost 16 million viewers, which is a pretty big figure and up over 10% compared to the first 4 weeks last year. So it's on a record pace for Amazon so far. The NBA probably won't be at that level, but I do think it'll most likely gain steam and viewership throughout the year. They plan to lean into the tech aspect of the broadcast, similar to how they do it with NFL as well. I think they just announced a 5-year partnership with Amazon Web Services. That collaboration is expected to bring in innovative features to the broadcast where they showcase new metrics using their Hawkeye player tracking data. Some of the new features will include a defensive box score, shot difficulty, a player's gravity, things like that. That'll be available through their NBA Inside the Game feature.
All right, we look forward to that. I saw a still photo of one of their defensive graphic. It looks pretty good. Now, we'll see how that actually materializes in a motion-based situation on the streaming coverage. Anyway, over the course of this with NBCU, they've done well, Scott, in terms of bringing new subscribers when they've had the Olympic Games, to some extent as well with Sunday Night Football. They're putting emphasis behind the NBA. Obviously, they've invested a lot of money. Do you think Peacock attracts a lot of new subscribers with the NBA?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I think sports are a great way to reduce churn on some of these SVOD services, so that the NBA on Peacock should help with that. There are going to be a lot of games on the service, but I also find it interesting that NBC is firing up the old NBC Sports Network and will be airing games on basic cable as well as on Peacock. If NBC really only cared about growing and maintaining Peacock subs, they wouldn't really do this. I also don't think that they believe by relaunching the NBC Sports Network, they'll be making a big impact on the rate of cord cutting. Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that pans out.
Justin, what about your thoughts there?
I would agree. It is a great case for the NBC affiliates. They get additional sports programming on their slate and their schedules in prime time. It also supports that localism that you see in the local stations with the team and the studio hour. I would say on the Peacock side, the uplift that they received in terms of subscribers during the Paris Olympics, they did a great job in terms of coverage. They probably do the same in Italy for the Winter Olympics. So you'll see a lot of promotions for NBA hoops as well.
Mike, can you tell us about what's going on with NBA TV, the league's own service?
Yeah. So the NBA is giving NBA TV a fresh makeover this season as they take over direct control of the channel again from TNT. The goal is to make NBA TV a little bit more integrated with the NBA app, which means fans can look forward to a blend of non-exclusive regular season games, some newer programming, and some rights to some international leagues. This season, I think NBA TV, I think they're scheduled to showcase 60 regular season games that you won't find on other national networks, along with games from the NBA G League and the Basketball Africa League. One of the newer features with the revamped NBA TV is going to be their flagship show called The Association. It's going to be airing weeknights from LA with a great lineup of hosts, contributors. It'll feature some different content from The Athletic, SiriusXM, radio shows, things like that. And then on top of all of that, NBA TV is teaming up with Sport Radar to boost its international content and bring in games from different leagues around the globe.
Last note here on the national side, Mike, there's a gigantic step up here in terms of the national TV revenue the clubs are receiving under this new deal.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. The new rights deal is set to bring in a lot more money for NBA teams. I think starting with this season on an average annual basis, the teams that will be receiving around $230 million per year in national TV revenues across the 3 packages, which was, I think it's a jump of over $140 million. And with this influx of cash, you can anticipate increases in player salaries and a rising salary cap. And this kind of happened in 2016 too, with the big jump in the previous TV deal. Back then, the sudden spike in salary cap allowed a few players to cash in big time. Many other players missed out on the big jump in cash. So to avoid this, the NBA is implementing a 10% salary cap increase per year And that aims to distribute the financial benefits of the new deals more evenly among players rather than benefiting a select few free agents. But still, with this, NBA max salaries could reach $80 million per year by 2030,
Okay.
with some players set to make around, I don't know, $1 million per game at the rate that things are increasing. So
Get your sons and daughters, get that ball in hand.
that's right. Get in the gym.
You got it. You got it. All right. Let's go to the regional local sports network side. Again, massive changes, transformation in the regional sports business, which had been the way for more than 2-3 decades, the way that the fans got to watch their NHL, MLB, and local NBA games. Then Warner Brothers got out of the business at the end of 2023. Diamond Sports, which was the largest operator of regional sports networks, had some financial issues. They went into Chapter 11. I think it was a 21-month process. Some teams along the way left the regional sports network game. I think with Jazz, Suns, Blazers, Pelicans, and Mavericks have moved their games to local TV stations. It seems to have calmed down a bit. I think all the teams whose deals expired this year have re-signed. Scott, I think there's only one major change that happened in the RSN space.
Yeah, if you're looking at the LA Clippers, they're still in bed with FanDuel, broadcasting most of their games on the FanDuel SN SoCal channel this season. They do have 10 games that will air on local broadcast station KTLA as well. But their streaming service, ClipperVision, was absorbed by FanDuel, and local fans can stream games via the FanDuel DTC platform.
I got you. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is talking about nationalizing a package of local market games, perhaps in time for the start of the 27-28 season. Mike, a lot of NBA teams' rights deals are set to expire, maybe after this season. Is this the calm before another RSN storm?
Yeah, it definitely seems we might be on the brink of another shift on the RSN front, at least for the NBA. Right now, there's several teams that are in a bit of a limbo with their rights deals. Like you mentioned, the Hawks, Cavs, Heat, Bucks, and Timberwolves. They've chosen to stick with FanDuel Sports Network for this season. So they kept their full roster of 13 franchises for this year.
Okay.
But as we look ahead, the NBA is gearing up for a potential national streaming RSN launch. And it could entice up to 20 teams to shift away from their local expiring deals for a more unified approach to local broadcasting going forward. And Commissioner Silver, he's also pointed out that resolving these local TV issues is a priority before any sort of team expansion occurs. So it suggests that the league is thinking thoughtful about this, but it would like to have it resolved relatively quickly here.
Justin, on the local market front, some teams have moved to the local station as their primary local distributor. Is there, under what Commissioner Silver's talking about, do you still see a local presence, a kind of back to the future return here for the NBA in the local TV world?
I do see this, but maybe on a smaller scale. You're probably going to have carve-out packages, 10, 15 game packages, as well as simulcasts. I think there's still value in terms of local broadcast in the marketplace. So pair that with a streaming service, even be it a national RSN streaming service. I think there's still value in terms of those simulcasts and carve-out.
Scott, a lot of the teams now are with flanking streaming offerings. Is this working? I don't think we've really seen a lot of numbers, so it's hard to say. Are fans moving to the streaming side?
Yeah, so the branded local streaming services, I think, are currently still being used mostly by super fans. The price tags are around $20 per month. And with some of them, you get additional perks like podcasts and game tickets and things. So I think it's a nice complement, but given just the business model for these things, there's not a national audience that they can market to. They still have to be regionally focused. So there's a ceiling on the number of potential subscribers. So as you mentioned, not a lot of data out around these services yet.
Justin, there seems to be some growth now that the streaming services have been out there for a couple of years.
Yes, there hasn't been any specific numbers. I think the Jazz were the only ones that gave specific numbers early on in terms of their signups, and right around 100K. And if you look at it from a perspective of streaming services that are specifically for the local team, it's a little bit more difficult. There have been teams that have offered free tickets to the game as part of signing up for those streaming packages. premium content, things outside the game that would have access to. Also types of promotions in terms of meet the players events and other things. So I think there are additional type of promotional activities like that, but I still think it's going to be a fairly small subscriber base in terms of those local services.
All right, guys, let's move over to the ladies here, the WNBA. The collective bargaining agreement ends October 31st. Navisha Collier is Minnesota Lynx best player. She's a VP of the Players Association and co-founder of the 3-on-3 League Unrivaled. She has called out the commissioner. There's some bad blood brewing. There's been some accusations made. All that being said, the league is doing good. Record attendance this past year, record ratings. So, Scott, there's also been a big step in fees under the new NBA rights deal. So the league seems to be going okay.
Yeah, so the WNBA deal under the new NBA deal is valued around $2.2 billion over 11 seasons, so $200 million per season, which is up from around $25 million per season that the league was getting.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously that's a massive step up, and it could go higher as additional games could be sold. There will be games on USA Network under the deal with Ursan.
Justin, they renewed a deal with EW Scripps for Ion, which is a doubleheader, and I know that Ion has been very pleased with its WNBA performance.
Yes, absolutely. Over the past few years that they signed that agreement, they have seen increased audience twofold in some cases, especially around the Fever games and those Friday night games, which are very popular. So I think that extension of the deal made a lot of sense. They probably paid a lot more for that extension, but it definitely makes sense in terms of their brand and their programming slate.
And Mike, there could be yet another renewal with CBS Sports, which also had a strong 25 season in terms of WNBA viewership.
Yeah, definitely. The league could add another media rights extension with CBS Sports like they did prior to last season. That multi-year agreement was an extension on a 5-year partnership between CBS Sports and the WNBA that was struck in 2019. Yeah, but for this season, CBS Sports, they aired 9 games, averaged just under 1.3 million viewers per game, which was a 16% increase from the prior season. And they also launched their first WNBA pregame shows. So it seems like the momentum is there to keep CBS Sports in the mix.
On the downside, and it's certainly no small thing, the league, which just completed its 29th season, is said to have never made a profit. Reports suggest they could be losing 40 to 50 million a season. NBA Commissioner Silver said the relationship with WNBA Commissioner Engelbert and the players need to be repaired, but both commissioners anticipate that a deal will get done. It might require an extension. Fellas, what are we thinking about, Mike? Are they going to come to terms?
Yeah, so there's a lot at stake right now for the WNBA. Another aspect of this is the start of the second season of Unrivaled, which could serve as a deadline to get a deal done.
Starts in January, right?
Yeah, exactly. So with Unrivaled gaining momentum and kind of drawing attention away from the WNBA, it's likely that the WNBA players feel like they'll have more leverage to secure a favorable agreement coming up here. And then the presence Unrivaled could push the WNBA to act a little bit more decisively in these negotiations. Ultimately, the players are becoming a lot more aware of their value and the financial potential of the league. So it could lead to a pretty big deal if they leverage the momentum effectively.
Justin, are the WNBA players, they're going to reach a deal and they get paid a lot more?
I would think so. There's other aspects outside the money. There's been a lot of chatter about the state of the refereeing in some of these games, the style of play. So I think that will also be part of the negotiations as well.
And Scott, are you of the same mind?
Yeah, like you mentioned before, there are 2 expansion teams tipping off in the WNBA this upcoming season. So there's a expansion draft being held on December 7th. So I'm looking more that as the deadline to get this done.
That makes sense. All right, guys, we're going to go back to the NBA. We're getting to the end here. LeBron may miss the first month of the season with sciatica. Steph Curry, 37 years old. Who's the new face of the league? Do we know? Is it SGA, Anthony Edwards? Guys, what's your thoughts here? Justin, who's the next face of the league?
Just given the buzz that has been around Wemby, I think Wemby's probably going to be at the top of my list. SGA obviously is the NBA champion and MVP. And then Cooper Flag. You've got a once-in-a-generation type of talent from what they're saying. In Dallas, I think that's a big market, and you'll have a lot of people supporting him.
Scott, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's Jalen Brunson. I think he can really take
There,
us.
there you go. That's the right answer.
Yeah, exactly. If he brings a championship to New York City, he's going to be beloved for the end of time. And aside from that, I think Justin's right. If Wemby can stay healthy, he'll be a player that draws large crowds all over the country.
Mike, what's your thoughts? Cooper Flag, is he going to kill it on the court for the Mavericks?
Yeah, it's probably going to be Flag, or it's either going to be physically fit Luka Doncic with the Lakers, or perhaps Wemby if he can stay healthy. The whole NBA embracing the international growth thing with NBA Europe and the changes to the All-Star format, but embracing the international player, and Doncic and Wemby are at the center of everything associated with that.
Okay. All right. Last year, MJ, myself, and our guest at the time, Lee Burke, principal of sports media consultancy, LHB Media, we all picked the Oklahoma City Thunder to win. So good on us. What do we think is going to happen this time? Mike, you're up first.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Lakers to win it all this year, and then Luka for MVP.
All right, Scott.
My predictions never come true. So I'm going to go ahead and say that OKC repeats. I'm going to be rooting for the Knicks, but not going to predict them here.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, it's going to be tough out west. I'm almost picking a dark horse, which would be the Rockets.
Wow. All right, that's interesting. And I'm going to take Scott's and our orange and blue fandom a step further. I'd like to say the Knicks, but again, making the NBA Finals and winning it, maybe a bridge too far. I say they get there and they lose to the revamped Denver Nuggets. This concludes this episode of MediaTalk. I wanted to thank Mike, MJ, Scott, Justin for sharing their insights on the game and enthusiasm for basketball.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks. This is Mike Reynolds. Thanks to all of you for listening. We're going to catch up soon on the next edition of MediaTalk.